let's talk about this stuff about dimensions a little bit, and it's not like alternate dimensions or anything like that. But so our dimensions of physical space is we have like height, we have width,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
we have length, right?
Yeah.
So we have three
Three
dimensions,
dimensions.
and then time, right?
Is our
So
fourth, yeah.
fourth dimensions. So, but what we're gonna do is that would be the physical space. So those are the four dimensions would do those space. Then we're gonna talk about what are the dimensions then of this abstract space, and the abstract space also has these physical dimensions, because if we're drawing the abstract space as circles and lines, the circles and lines have height, width.
Yeah,
you could
2D at the minimum.
2D at the minimum, and whatnot. And that's the thing with the third dimension is the reflection, but I'll talk about that at another point. But it's just to say that, so already the abstract space, the only way to interpret it, to understand it, is by applying these dimensions.
Sure, the way we see things. We
Yeah.
can't understand things really
Yeah.
beyond those
But
naturally.
but at the same time, it also has these other dimensions, and we don't really consider them dimensions now. But so we're going to look at all things in the universe. They vibrate, they move. Everything's moving
At a frequency.
at some frequency. Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
So everything can be considered a wave.
Yes.
On some level, it is like everything is moving. All things, even objects that aren't moving, or the atoms are moving.
On microscopic scale, there is, the little bit of vibration. That's
Exactly.
A little bit of something.
So you would consider that wave fluctuation frequency, that is the dimension of another four dimensions of things. So that's wave dimension. So you'd have frequency, amplitude, wavelength,
Right,
and
right.
period.
So all those measurements of the wave itself.
Yeah, exactly. And those
Yeah.
would be four other dimensions. And
Right.
then that has to do with the reflection. I was telling you frequency. So
Yeah.
frequency is super important. So when we're talking about, the amount of things that appear around us, what we're really talking about is frequency. The frequency of these Apple products around us. So the appearance of things around us comes about because of those wave dimensions on top of that. Because it's frequency.
So
it's
are we talking
cycles.
about, like, when you say appearance, just so I can get it clear, are you talking about appearance like the appearance of a certain item, or are you talking about the way we physically interpret the item?
No. The appearance of an item, like any item,
So
not
it's-
necessarily the design of
Right,
an item,
okay. But it's
the
just
an appearance, showing
it
up
just
around
being
us,
there.
being like, oh, what's that?
Yeah. Just its presence.
The point is that there's these four wave dimensions, and what's really interesting about that is that it's really a sine wave. We talk about as a sine wave,
Right. Sine and cos and cosine.
but where that comes from is a rotation of a circle. You
Yeah,
see,
that's
as
how
a
it
circle
works out.
rotates,
Yeah.
it can be translated into a wave. And then, so there's these wave dimensions, and they have to do with the frequency of these things appearing. And then also, we're talking about the atoms moving and whatnot. But there's also another set of dimensions, which then, if you take the wave and the physical and these other dimensions, you get this whole concept of mindspace, which is what I've kind of coined.
Okay.
And it's the combination of both the physical and the abstract in one paradigm. So what we really want to do is to combine them and say, okay, we have one thing we're looking at, like, we don't want we want to have a complete map of everything, and
The only way to do that is in a combined view.
a combined view with
Yeah.
these extra dimensions, but they're not like it's just extra dimensions of matter. Like, it's to say that matter has width, height, depth, and time. But also, it also vibrates, so it also has like wavelength, frequency, period, and then the intelligence dimensions. What it also explains is this is what's really interesting, is that in physics normally. So if I have my book here. So we have mass here. So let's say this weighs a kilogram or half a kilo or whatever.
Yeah.
So in physics, this has a total energy content or mass of
potential
half a
energy.
kilo.
Yeah.
Based on the amount of atoms, right?
Okay.
So the thing is that in traditional physics, they don't talk about the arrangement of atoms, because it doesn't matter. It's just the amount of weight, and you can convert that. So whether there's a Y here or not, or a 12 there or not, or
It doesn't affect the physical characteristics.
doesn't affect
No.
it.
The weight's the same.
Weight's the same.
Yeah. The
Okay.
dimensions are the same.
Exactly.
It's still a book.
Yeah, but in a mind space, in this kind of hyperdimensional space, you'd include the designs within the mass. So you'd say that this book, if I gave you a blank book with absolutely nothing on it, and then I gave you a book like this that had a bunch of things on it, this one would weigh more because there's designs, and those things are symbols, and they're related to more relationships. So these things are related.
So by the power of their connection,
Yeah.
by the power of the visual meaning, they have a value,
Exactly.
and that's quantifiable again.
Exactly, and those are very abstract dimensions. Those are intelligent. Those are dimensions of the mind, and they have to do with literally meanings, which is the main dimension of all dimensions is meaning, and then when we're talking about understanding the circle, we're going to apply meaning to it. When we're talking about the line, we're applying meaning to it, a container, a pathway, and then we apply meanings to everything. Everything is meaningful. There's nothing that's
That's
not
how
meaningful.
brains are geared. We look for meaning in everything. We look
Everything, like a cup has meaning. Everything has meaning. You cannot separate meaning from the mind. So that would be the top one. The next one is shape. So everything has shape, like it has form, like physical. A circle's a shape, a triangle's a shape, but letters and squiggly lines, they're all shapes as well. Like anything that has some sort of design or shape. So shape, and then you end up also having numbers and letters are also dimensions. So if you look at anything, okay, so you pick anything up around you, you're going to see this. You're going to see it has meaning, it has shape. Even if it doesn't have any designs on it like a glass, the glass has a shape. It's inherent to the object itself. Then there could be shapes within it, on top of it, engraved. And then you'll also see there's always usually letters and numbers. Like you see there's numbers here, there's letters here. If you pick up anything
that's human added, right?
That's the thing, is that we think we invented numbers and letters and shapes and meanings or whatever, especially numbers and letters. We're like, we invented those. They're dimensions. That's the thing. That's the kicker.
Yeah,
is that it's dimensions, and we just when we access the abstract realm, we have to develop numbers and letters. They must come out because we have to understand everything through these 12 dimensions.
Right.
They're inherent. We didn't invent them. We invented the exact forms, and then I would even say that gravity has a lot to do with what really came out over time, like a survival of the fittest of forms based on gravity. Kind of tricky, but I'll tell you that the shapes that we have are not random. Over time, the best ones have kind of evolved. So the ones in the zero at the beginning of the line. Remember we talked about that yesterday. It starts with 0, 1, 2, 3. Well, the fact that the circle and the line are at the beginning of the number line is very it's not a coincidence. It's not random. It's because there's this gravitational attraction that we all go through, and over time we choose the best symbols that represent the best concepts, and then they get placed at certain places, so it makes its way there over time
because of its own strength, mass.
Because its own symmetry. It has to do with symmetry. The way it's symmetrical to the concepts that it represents. Like the 0 is symmetrical to the things that it's representing. Like a 1 is symmetrical. Like one line is symmetrical to the number 1
in itself.
In itself,
sure.
The symmetry is actually the basis of building relationships. Say that everything around us is imbued with these 12 dimensions. Not just 4 dimensions. Okay,
so we've got our standard 4.
Standard 4.
3 dimensions of physical space and time.
Yeah, and that would be talking about the physical space.
Yeah, that's what we know.
That's that physical half.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that's 1/2.
Yeah.
4 dimensions, 1/2.
Yeah. So then you'd have to kind of say, okay, so what are the 4 dimensions of this abstract space?
Okay.
Because if there's 4 there, I guess there should be 4 here. And then there's probably 4 that connect them.
Well, so I've come to understand that the 12 dimensions all exist in the mind space. We have the 4 dimensions that we deal with on a daily basis: length, width, depth, and time. That's what we know as the physical universe, right?
Yeah.
And then we have another 8 broken down into 2 groups of 4.
Exactly.
So 4 of them, we kind of understand in the physical world, because we understand the 4 dimensions of waveforms, frequency, amplitude, wavelength, and period.
Yeah.
Right. So we know those anyway because of studies of sound waves and earthquakes and any kind of wave energy.
And the key is that they come from the rotation of a circle.
Yes. So
that's why it's so key.
That's what connects us to the
exactly
abstract.
Because the circle, when it rotates, it can be translated into a waveform.
Yes.
And then those dimensions come out of it. Like the dimensions represent the waveforms that come from rotating circles. So in
right.
abstract space, you have rotation as well. You have these circles that are moving, but they're also rotating.
And that we interpret that rotation as this vibrating particle.
Yeah, like anything that's vibrating in physical reality has a circle behind it that's rotating,
and everything's
creating a cycle.
To a degree, otherwise
everything. Like I mean, you're talking about seasonal patterns, rotation around the sun. Heartbeats. These are all cycles.
Oh, well, I was thinking
They're
much more
waves.
physical than that.
But think about everything's a wave. Wind. Just the way we speak, language, tones, but it's particularly like breathing. It's cyclical. It's just, and then there's a circle behind that. That's creating that's doing the period every time it does a one period.
It's one rotation, one
exactly.
Even like our heartbeats, our circulatory systems, our loops. It is ingrained into everything.
The circles are ingrained into everything. Yeah. So then you have these wave dimensions, and then you have the intelligence dimensions, I call them.
Okay.
Which are the meaning. Yeah, the meaning, shapes, numbers and letters. And they were saying that they are intrinsic to the universe. Like we did not invent numbers and letters. We invented specifically the shape of them. We designed them, but again, we're talking about how the strong survive.
And shapes.
And you could also argue at that point that all animals have access to numbers and shapes and letters, numbers and letters specifically. And that becomes kind of interesting because you're like, well, a dolphin, does it recognize numbers and letters?
Yes.
And you could say definitely, but it's not just if you teach them about numbers and letters, but it's like,
the recognition
it can count, it can count.
Yes.
What is a letter to a dolphin, or an ant? Like that becomes an interesting question.
It's still just a symbol. It's something.
It's a differentiator in meaning. Like if you think about what a letter is a way to differentiate between two meanings. So, you have the meaning of a glass and glasses, or keys. But they have different letters to represent the meanings.
Yes.
So this concept of letters is really what it is at its base. It's not an alphabet per se, like it becomes an alphabet, but the base is to take meaning and to logically separate it from one another.
Right.
And that's all it does. It's a separator. So numbers are a unifier a little bit, and then you have this concept of a separator.
But you need both for the very basic of communication.
You need letters. You can't do it without. You can.
Yeah, you need something to say to
even
attribute.
Even if you don't have an alphabet and you're using different shapes, those different shapes could be considered letters.
Oh, completely. Even just if we take it back, even just a distinctive sound. One distinctive sound over another distinctive sound
is the letters.
Is a form of identification.
Exactly. Yeah. So exactly. And animals would use different sounds. So you could say those are the letters, maybe. And then if they do the sound many times, if they know they're doing it 3-4 times, they're accessing the numbers. So they understand the numbers. They're counting
because they know 3 squawks is different to 5 squawks.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then you would say that could be goes all the way down to even a cell. Like a cell would have also access, like any type of living thing would have access to all 12 dimensions.
Because they're dimensions.
Because they're dimensions,
it's not human-made knowledge. It's
not human-made.
Intrinsic.
It's intrinsic. So it has to go through. It's like if you shoot something through the mind space, it has to go through all 12 of those properties at all times. Like there's no way to avoid it. So that's why But that's the idea of physical the world. You know, you cannot avoid time. You cannot avoid space.
No, we
Time,
don't
space,
know.
time.
Yeah, I mean, there's been fascinating short movies and articles about what it would be like to live in a two-dimensional world,
Yeah.
and it's difficult enough to just comprehend.
Yeah.
Um,
They're imbued in everything, yeah.
Yeah,
And then whenever we produce anything, we make anything that's, it always comes out with those 12 dimensions. So you'll often see numbers, letters, shapes, and meanings written everywhere, logos. That's a perfect, example of what this is, So any.